Welcome to today's lecture, which is number 27. I'm glad you all are here. Katharina is missing, but maybe she will be coming. Dr. Cook sends his regrets that he can't be with us today, and that is really sad. I will try to send him the recording of this later. What you see here on the front slide is our motley crew. Actually, the trimmer is not ours. He's a student, but we don't claim him personally. And the gray is our Welsh pony Jackson. The mini is Ducky. And the quarter horse in the back is Sylvester. In the far back, more towards the left of the picture, you can see Hudson, who probably just drank out of the hoof spa, which seems to be their preferred drinking place. So much for clean, scrubbed tubs and automatic waterers. Today is a little bit a difficult day. We're going to talk about handling the sore horse and the seemingly impossible. So far so good. This is not too bad. Then we have to talk about when horses are beyond help, and that's a little bit a difficult lecture. So let's get started with handling the sore horse. This is really not always easy. You have to remember several things when you are dealing with a sore horse. The equine is an animal that fights through flight. So not every horse that pushes you over is badly trained. My experience with such horses is that they are in a lot of pain and simply look out for themselves. To deal with a very sore horse requires a lot of patience. A horse that does not hold the hoof up for long is not necessarily obstinate, but cannot stand on the other hoof. I have never seen anything else to be true. Your training and relationship with the horse starts right here. The sooner you give him the hoof back, the more comfortable he will be with you, and the sooner and longer you will be able to hold the hoof up again. When I'm trimming, I often run into horse owners that are extremely embarrassed that their horses won't hold up their feet, or that they are not standing still, they're fidgety. This is always because the horses are sore. And there is nothing else to it. Oh, he's in a foul mood today. Horses are not like that. Or he doesn't want to stand still. Oh, he would love to stand still if he wouldn't be hurting. And it takes a lot of patience from us as hoof care providers to work through this. Sometimes it takes more patience to work through with the owner than it takes with the horse. All of us usually have a lot of compassion for horses. The other thing is that many equine hoof care professionals are women, and muscle is not always an option. While trimming the sore horse, we can stand him on soft footing or any footing that makes him most comfortable. That could be a patch of grass. That can be a pad, like these pads from happyhoofpads.com come in various softnesses. Dr. Bowker suggested just to try a washcloth and fold it over, and that should work. You also have to, when you're dealing with a sawhorse, you have to make a plan for what you want to do before you pick up the hoof and be ready. Sometimes you can only get 1 or 2 swipes in with the knife. I look at the hoof first, I make a plan. If I have a horse that can only hold the foot up for a very short time, I do trim this horse as soon as the hoof comes up, and I take the most blatant points off. A very high bar, a very high heel. Sometimes I go then to the other foot, because now the horse may be able to stand on that foot that I just trimmed a little bit better and work back and forth between the 2 feet. There are many ways to accomplish the job. When the horse is anxious, afford him the company of his body. That often calms him down and you get the job done. Carry some Bach Flower Rescue Remedy, which you get in health food stores or on the internet. Bach Flower Rescue Remedy. 1 drop inside the lip often does wonders. And give 1 to the owner too. Always helps. Take 1 yourself. Calms the whole crew down. Try feeding some hay, not grain. Try feeding some hay when the horse is anxious. When he has the head down and is munching, he is more relaxed. And finally, if nothing works, because the horse is too sore to stand, try the EquiSling. That is equisling.com, EQUISLING.com, or any similar device. This is just a device that you hang from the ceiling, and you can hang the horse up, and you're just putting him up high enough so he doesn't put full weight on the sore foot. And that way you can get the other foot up. There are others that we found the EquiSling to be one of the cheapest ones, very well made. 1 will last you for a lifetime. And it's not super expensive considering what horses cost. Ran when we bought it about $350, so not a big deal. Really. Here you see it in action on 2 different horses. Different contraptions. It's really just made so that the horse can relax into it and not has to put pressure on his sore feet. And for future reference, this little horse here on the left that's hanging in the sling here will come up again in a little bit later today, so remember this. Horses with inflammation in the hoofs also may find some relief in ice-cold water that may be added to the boots, or even better, if you can stand them for a good while into a stream, if you have one, that really helps to get the inflammation down. And when the inflammation is down, the pain is less, and then you can get the foot up again. Having a rubber floor definitely helps. There are different kinds of rubber. This here are the mats that also go in stalls. They are fairly firm. When you have a horse that's really sore, you need something softer. I carry a towel around with me, and always comes in handy for all kind of things. And it's huge. It's a bath towel, and I can fold it up several times and stand the sore horse up on this, and then it goes much easier. it doesn't happen that the horse says, I don't want to give you my foot, except certainly in those situations where the horse has absolutely no training and has no idea what you want from him. So that is a different story. But in general, horses do cooperate to the best of their ability. Also, horses who have been laminitic for a long time may need some massage for their backs, as they have been reaching under for a long time to support their weight and may be all cramped up. Pea gravel gives horses relief. Pea gravel is a truly magical tool that every horse owner and hoof care professional should immediately add to their bag of tricks. If you have a horse owner with a very sore horse, talk to them that they get a couple of tons of pea gravel so that the horse has an area to stand in. It really works extremely well. These are so the ideas that I have about what to do with very sore horses. Patience helps. There's one other thing. If the horse is too sore to stand up and he's laying down, you have to trim on the ground. It makes an instant contortionist out of you. I have had a couple of horses here that I trimmed laying down, and some of them are rather relieved that you do this and they don't have to stand up. But you have to be, in case the horse decides to get up, they don't wait a long time till you have crawled out of the way. So you have to be able to roll away real quick. It's definitely something that stretches your imagination. So let's look a little bit at these situations where it seems that impossible that a horse like this could come back to normal. Remember the little guy that was hanging in the sling that I just showed to you? Here he is again in his home environment. Definitely not something for the faint of heart to trim. This requires a little bit knowing what's on the inside of the hoof, and so that you know where exactly you can go with your trim. And beside that, it also requires some muscle. And you can see how over the top he is really tight. You can also imagine some tightness here in the belly line. We had talked about this before. He's really tight here, and he's tight here. And he has the hind feet pushed under so that he can take some weight off of the front feet, and he certainly doesn't look very happy. This picture was from the 20th of March, and then on that day he got into the care of my colleague Susan Heddenberg in Virginia, and so 4 weeks later he was going home. She trimmed him several times in between, and he certainly looks a whole lot different. It's not even the same horse anymore, it seems. So this is one of the stories where you are really, really happy that this happens, that you could make it happen, and you just wish the horse good luck and let him walk off. Wonderful when you can get results like this. Here we have another one. This one from colleague Sherry Fisher in Minnesota. This horse, believe it or not, belonged to a veterinarian, and he was badly foundered, and had, needless to say, incredible difficulties to walk. Also had bed sores on the other side that needed definite treatment. And these are the only before pictures I have, and then I have only after pictures from a year later. And they are riding this pony. Sherry has 2 little girls. She has actually 4 girls, but 2 of them are small enough to ride this pony. And you see what a wonderful hoof form he has now. And he also is, right here, is really enjoying life and running around and having a good time. So this is another story where you are really saying all the work that I put into this horse was absolutely worth it. This is Stella. Picture's a little bit fuzzy because I had to make it bigger from the website and didn't have the resolution, but Stella was a former circus pony between 30 and 40 years old. And unfortunately, all these ponies, there's something about ponies, they are often owned by people that don't know a lot about horses. They're often owned by people that don't know anything about hoof care. And it's just a pony. We don't want to invest a lot of money. It is much easier to justify a big hoof care bill on a $500,000 Grand Prix jumper than on a pony that was given to you because it couldn't work in the circus anymore. So that's just how people are. This is horrible, but that's the way it is. So the differences in these 2 trims, the before on top was in February and the below was in August. So that's pretty incredible. And it only proves to me that age is not a handicap. Not to do the right thing because the horse is old makes no sense. You see how much better this little horse got, and if you look at the middle picture and compare the width of the frog here to the width of the frog here, I think this is absolutely incredible. Very good, well done. Another thing that I have to say here is this is not the same school of thought that these trimmers follow. They trim a little bit different than we do, but at the end of the day, the horse got relief and it looks much better, and you can tell that the horse also got a lot more care from there on. If you just look at the fur that he had or she had before and how nice and clean she is afterwards, that means a lot. That somebody cares about this little horse. This is a series of pictures of a lost hoof capsule. I personally didn't have a lot of success with lost hoof capsules, but they were both cases where very special, and we'll talk about them today. So here you have a success story about a lost hoof capsule. It's coming off all around on the coronet band here. And here it's off. This is a freshly come off hoof capsule. abscessed off, if you so wanna say that. And on the bottom left picture you see the whole thing from the front. And this is what's left over on the live horse. First thing you need to see is that the right front hoof seems to be in fairly good shape. She has some founder rings, you can just see it here. And certainly her legs are swollen, there is something systemic going on here. But overall this foot looks pretty good. Not the cleanest environment. I'm not quite sure why they didn't do anything to clean this up, but at least we got some pictures. Usually you don't even get that. And here in this picture you see the coffin bone. I just want to outline it here. Covered with the lamella corium and the very inflamed coronary bulge here. And now you have to think that the hoof capsule would be on here, like this. So, but the horse lost only one hoof capsule, not two. And they covered this and kept it clean, and you can also see in this picture how very skinny the horse was now, and this does not mean that the horse was always skinny. When things like this happen, horses throw off an enormous amount of weight because they can't deal on these compromised feet with a lot of weight. So that's how the body reacts. They are also in a lot of pain. And you see that this horse has a lot of swelling in the front leg here. Not so much, it seems, in the right front, but the left front that has lost the hoof capsule has a lot of swelling. And from everything I know, this horse made it. So this brings us to the less pleasant part, but we have to talk about this. We have to talk about some examples that are beyond help for various reasons. This horse here was delivered to a hoof clinic, and this is the picture of how the horse was delivered, how it looked when it came into the hoof clinic. And they thought they could help the horse. I am not quite sure why there were no radiographs made on this horse, or maybe they were made and they were not read correctly. The horse was trimmed, and this was the trim result. And the horse was in the hoof clinic for quite a while. This wasn't a one-time trim deal. This was trimmed quite a few times. And the horse kept on abscessing and wasn't feeling good, and the owner, not the clinic owner, but the owner of the horse, decided that the horse should be euthanized. The horse was euthanized, and then the foot was cut open, or a sagittal cut was made through the foot, and this here is the coffin bone. This is all that is left. And when you look, it's always easy when you know what's going on to see, but when you look how the hoof tubules run here in the new growth, you see that there is something not right, because here they run all of a sudden steeper and very steep. So this gives you an idea of the orientation of the coffin bone. And with a radiograph, making this horse more miserable by trying to trim it and restore something could have been avoided. And in my opinion today, and I certainly had to go through my own learning curve, but nobody shared things with me like this. So it was always, what we learned was always, you can fix anything with a good trim. Well, there is a time when you have so much calf and bone destruction that you cannot hope for a laminar attachment anymore. And if you don't get a laminar attachment, where's this horse standing on? He's standing on this little bit of stump here. That's his skeletal base. This cannot be right. Here we have 3 different pictures of the same bone. When you have a coffin bone like this where the terminal arch is destroyed, there is no hope of this growing back. While you may be able to get the horse temporarily stabilized and looking better in comparison to how he looked before treatment, it is questionable if the emotional, physical, and financial effort on the owner's side, the pain level during recovery on the horse's side, and your complete investment as a trimmer are in balance with the quality of life the horse will have in the future. And I can tell you from my experience and that of my colleagues that there is no way that this balances out. The owner will have a lot of investment financially, emotionally, you will have a lot of physical investment, and the horse's quality of life is not good. This horse is in pain all the time. Where is he standing on? Because this is his surface. This is not held the right way. This is the surface he's standing on. And if you, from the side, it looks even still pretty good, but you see there's nothing here. And so it's only this little bit. And the whole heavy skeleton is resting on this. Here's one of mine, a horse that I had for 6 years. He came to us foundered already, had been a stallion for 13 years. I got him maybe half a year or a year before, after he got gelded. They showed him as a young horse, as a yearling in halter. Therefore he had to have shoes on, and most likely with high heels. He was always alone because he was a stallion. He couldn't be together with other horses. When I met him, he was extremely depressed. And he had already some coffin bone destruction, but not as bad as this. We had this horse for 6 years, and he was absolutely incredible. He was a great trooper. He got out of his depression pretty soon. He was a little snooty in the beginning, didn't want to have anything to do with the other horses, but looking back, I think at that time it was more a pain issue. What happened then was that I got help from, at the time I was in no hoof course, nothing. I got help from a certified hoof care professional who opened that hoof up, and we had talked about this, how sinking coffin bones happens often when you open the hoof up too fast and the horse doesn't have a good laminar attachment. So he sunk, and he was already rotated, and as you can see here, he has made a whole new surface, ground parallel surface, and again he has not much to stand on. It is a little bit individually different from horse to horse. Some horses just have more zest for life than others, and this guy certainly had a lot of zest for life. He also was in between rideable. I have some pictures of him being ridden, and he really was a good guy and a character, and our babysitter for lots of sick horses. So, but one day he said no more, and it went from one day to the next that he just couldn't deal with this situation that we see here anymore. I had left the heel a little bit longer because he wasn't weighing it, so let it grow out a little bit to give him just that support. And I was looking at him every day, kind of asking myself, or making really sure that I would see when he had enough. When horses are not in good shape, eating is not a sign that they are still well. And that is also an experience thing. I have been through quite a few horses that should have been put down, but they were still eating. And that is the last thing they give up, eating. They eat to the very end because that is their survival mechanism. So unless they are handicapped in the chewing department, they will still be eating. You can see it in their eyes, however, and you can see it in their muscle tone when they can't go any further. And it is our job as caretakers to give them care that they don't have to suffer. Here's another one that came to me way too late when he was already sunk and rotated, and there is just no way that you can get a laminar attachment back on a horse like this. This horse, however, this was a quarter horse, gave up much earlier. His pain threshold was much lower than that of the Arabian in the previous radiograph. So comparing the two, he has a little bit more bone still left, but he left us earlier than the Arabian. This horse was brought to us because a veterinarian who is very involved in hoof care looked at the case study of this horse and said under the right circumstances this horse could be rehabilitated. Right circumstances being walking every day, living on rubber, being trimmed often, expertly, and stuff like that. So the owner brought this horse over quite a long distance, and she could walk just fine on these three other legs. What had happened with this horse was a couple of years earlier she had lost the hoof capsule, and while the hoof capsule was growing back, she had a dislocation of the coffin joint, and the coffin bone was displaced from P2, and therefore it grew in like you see it here. And after I got the horse, I looked at this same case study that the veterinarian had seen, and I saw this. I just pulled the pictures out of the case study. And this is the radiograph that was in the case study. You don't need to know a lot about radiographs. This here was the coffin bone. This here was P2. And this here is P1, long pastern bone. So when I take all this away again, all the rest is calcification. There is no joint here anymore, and this joint is totally calcified over as well. There is no way you can break this loose and you can make this in any way or form better. The horse was standing like this. She was still running around. She had a lot of light in her eyes. She was eating like the proverbial horse. She really ate well. She wasn't gaining an ounce of weight. She always looked like a skeleton. I believe because the body wouldn't allow more weight on this hoof situation. And eventually the owner of the horse took her home and said, she's just going to live with me till she can't do anymore. I know we can't get her right. She was way too long with us. She could have actually gone back on the truck and returned. I have no idea why anybody could think that the situation like this could be remedied. But these are so the challenges that you are sometimes confronted with when you're a hoof care provider. It seemed in my case that all of these things came to our place right after I graduated from hoof care school. I had one after the other like this. So here we have a rather large, I want to say 16.2, 16.3 hand Salfrancais gelding who had hoof canker on the left front and very contracted hoof. We're going to talk about hoof canker either next time or the following time, so I won't go into this in any great detail. And we were working on this a lot, again and again and again, and trimming, and it was often a bloody mess. The owner had no money. She actually was working for us. Had no money to pay for surgery on this horse. Hoof canker can be surgically removed. They quoted $2,500, and there was no way. So I also was told that with correct trimming this could be resolved. But before I could resolve it, unfortunately, this horse lost the other hoof capsule. He lost the hoof capsule on this hoof. He became very, very lame. On the right front, we thought, oh, he's going to abscess and then this is going to be it. But he didn't abscess. He pushed off that hoof capsule. And when I saw this, I just gave him tons and tons of Bannerman. Made him a very happy horse, which made it hard to put him down because he looked really good on all this Bannerman. And we put him down the next day because there was no way he could deal with two front feet. He was now standing a little bit better on the canker, but only because he absolutely couldn't stand on the right front. So that wasn't the solution at all for this poor guy. This horse was delivered to the hoof clinic with a veterinarian diagnosis of minor rotation. The veterinarian consulted with the farrier at the time of diagnosis and prescribed the shoes that you see here. After 2 weeks in these shoes, the owner called me in a panic and brought the horse the next day. When we removed the shoes, we removed the first shoe, and he could not stand. I had to put him in the sling to remove the second shoe. That should have already given me a good hint that something wasn't right. Because with minor rotation, 5 to 10 degrees, you just trim a horse correctly, take the toes back, and he's going to be fine. So here, I got later told by my mentor that when you see red, Now, this is not dirt anymore. This is really bruising. When you see red like this, you have a good chance to lose the hoof capsule when it is this much, bruised. Initially, the horse seemed to get better. Then he started to lay down and was increasingly more reluctant to get up. When I finally got the x-rays, it took 3 weeks till I got the x-rays from the time I got the horse. And the owner was whining so much I didn't put my foot down and said, I'm not going to touch this horse before I don't see the x-rays. That would have expedited the whole deal. But when I got the x-rays, I saw that he was fully sunk. Yeah, he had a little bit rotation, but he was fully sunk. And after about 25 days of being with us, he started to push both front hoof capsules off. I asked the owner to come and discussed with her euthanasia. She was not willing to euthanize this horse. She had him by so-named friends pulled on a trailer. He couldn't get up anymore, and he died at home 3 days later. This is when it becomes really difficult to be a hoof care provider. In this case, we were lied to. This was the last day when we decided to put him down. When I decided that he should be put down. This is when the emotional problems with the horse owner do not allow them to let go of the horse. And it is not in the best interest of the horse to keep him that way. So this was definitely a very difficult case, and absolutely was not necessary. This is a case I just found on the internet a few days ago, and the question is this fair to the horse? Everyone has to decide that for himself when they own a horse like this. This is a mare, I believe, and this was made on 7th of October, and it's titled Walking. I don't see a horse walking. I see a horse barely being able to move. Here she is walking a little bit better, but you have to see a few things. That is this here. That spells extreme tension. That is the top line here. That spells extreme tension. And that is the belly line here. That spells extreme tension. And when you have this much tension in the horse, there is something very wrong. And here you see the horse on the 2nd of November of this year. Yes, she is standing a little bit better, still extremely pushed under to get the weight off her front feet, but this tightness over the back is still here, and the tightness here in the belly line is still there. And here we have a radiograph of the same horse. Now, we have talked a lot about anatomy, we have talked about coffin bone loss, we have talked about rotation and separation, and I believe it is all here. This is the hairline. And how would you think that on a bone that is this severely deformed, you could get an attachment again? And through how much pain does a horse like this have to go? Here is a collage of this trim that they made on this horse, and I personally believe this is all about the trimmer trying to prove something, but the whole time the horse is the one who has to suffer. What you see here in this picture is abscessing out of the hoof capsule. This is all pus underneath. You know how this feels? This feels horrible. And it doesn't matter how much you soak this in white lightning or oxine or whatever you soak it in. This does not make sense. This is a trimmer trying to prove something to the rest of the world. And the horse has to suffer it. I don't know what to say about this. And I certainly do not know how this ends. The question is really, for whom is this here? And hoof care, I just made a note to myself the other day, hoof care should be about the horse, not about the trimmer, not about the person that invented the trim method, not about the owner. It should be about the horse. So, a few thoughts, final thoughts about this. We talk a lot about education because we think a good education can really take you far in your relationship with horses. Knowledge is essential, but knowledge alone certainly is not enough. You must be able to act on your knowledge. You must put it to work, because doing is how you learn and how you ultimately prove yourself. You must tell others as well about what you know. Knowing something and not sharing this knowledge is not good practice in life. Don't underestimate anything until you try it. You need hands-on involvement to understand anything, to know the problems you'll face. You have to gain experience, and that only comes from actually doing it and doing it often. If you have a trimmer that doesn't have a lot of experience, do not throw them out. Give them the opportunity to get the experience. Everybody has to start somewhere, but also encourage a not so experienced trimmer to continue with their education. If you are one of those, and I'm saying this because I have a couple here on the call, if you are a beginning trimmer, get help. If you have to have some input for every case, get help. It is worth it, so you don't make mistakes that the horse has to suffer from. If you are a horse owner, get help long before things get so out of hand that they have to be presented in my chapter Beyond Help. Clients usually have high expectations. In general, higher expectations of their hoof care provider than of themselves. There will be many unknowns that the hoof care provider has to tackle every day. Let's recap a few very important points. Before trimming any compromised horse, you have to have everything in place. That is owner education and compliance, including, but not limited to, walking, soaking, and paying for frequent trims, providing a natural lifestyle. Correct terrain for the rehabilitation you are attempting. Detoxification of the horse, or he cannot heal. And veterinary support, including x-rays where indicated. If you need any of the above, and this is for trimmers and caretakers as well, and cannot obtain it, walk away from it. You cannot help a horse when you don't have all the right tools. You cannot do just a little. There are no holding patterns in natural hoof care rehabilitation. You either make progress or the horse will regress. Engage the help of peers, instructors, and the veterinarian when you are in doubt. Finally, keep on learning. Keep on seeking answers for your questions. This was probably a hard session. It always is for me. So I thought I'd share at last another member of our household. Lucky. She's our miniature cow. She's a zebu, and just a little bit taller than our miniature horse. And with this, I turn it over to you and kind of like to have your thoughts on this. Pamela.
Pick on me first today, eh?
Yeah, sure, pick on you. I saw you jump up and down and say, pick me, pick me.
Oh, through the computer? I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see. My thoughts on this. I do a lot of compromise speech, so I really took this to heart. I've already shared with you a couple of where I've had to actually talk with the owner and say, I'm a little concerned about this. And it's tough. It is really tough. It's much more easy with your own horse. So my thoughts on being a trimmer is sometimes I think, why?
Yeah.
But then I have you and Jerry, and I just keep it going.
Okay. And yeah, it is tough. And why? Because once in a while you have one that you start and they come out in no time wonderful. And sometimes it just takes one trim and the horse gets so much better. And that's why we do this, what we're doing. But
yeah, and we're not, it's a passion. What can we say?
thank you, Christina, Pamela, for your thoughts. How about Christina? Christina has no sound today, or she muted herself and can't find the unmute button. Katarina?
Am I unmuted?
You are unmuted.
Okay, because I didn't hear you speak to me. I just have to say that when you said in the beginning of this lecture that, or at one point in the beginning, you said that now I'm going to show you some cases that didn't make it. And I already about 3 lessons ago was looking at some of the horses going, I can't believe this horse made it. I was almost afraid to look when you started presenting the ones that didn't make it.
Yeah.
I was pretty much speechless. What can I say? I mean, I don't know, for the past couple of weeks, I've been just horrified by some of the pictures you've shown that, and these horses actually do come through it. And, yeah.
The question is, why are we waiting so long till they are that way?
I know. It's just, I don't even understand. I don't understand that. I don't even know how you look at an owner who brings you a horse like that and just don't want to strangle them right there and then. But I guess you just have to not do that because it wouldn't help the horse, would it?
No, it doesn't help the horse. I think we all are venting our frustrations among each other. Like Pam said, I have you and Jerry and several others to talk to, because sometimes it is so frustrating when you get one horse after another who are just in bad shape, and sometimes they're not. I just did a horse last week that was done by a very knowledgeable. No, take this back. I have to word this different. By a farrier with a huge reputation, positive reputation. Oh, he can do so much, and he's so wonderful. The horse could hardly move. And we had him, the owner had the shoes taken off and had him trimmed by the same guy. And I looked at I picked up the front feet, which were rotated and separated. And then I picked up the hind feet and I said, this is not any better. The hind feet were not rotated and separated, but he had, I swear, 1-inch bars on these hind feet. The bars were higher than the walls. And you're going, excuse me? This is one of the foremost farriers in the United States? Gotta be kidding.
Yeah,
So,
that's disheartening, if it.
and the only reason why this lady came to me was because she had bought a trailer from me and she knew I did barefoot trimming. Otherwise this horse would have gone on suffering. Yeah, and what it really takes, not to pick on you, Katarina, but it takes your blogs. It takes, and when I talk about this, how long it takes people to come around to this, I must say your blogs must be stronger even.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to put more poison in your pen.
The problem is when you put more poison, it turns off a lot of people and they
Yeah.
walk away from it.
Yeah, you have to
And
be
they don't
careful
read anymore.
you have
That's
to be
the thing.
careful how you distribute the poison.
Mm-hmm.
But I trust
Exactly.
you that you're doing this well. So, okay.
It's difficult.
Yeah, I know.
Mhm.
Thank you, Katharina. Denise?
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, no, one of your last comments on the talk was about keep learning. I'm relatively new to the whole process of actually horse ownership as well, so yeah, learning is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I've just recently got a bitless bridle, you'll be pleased to know.
Yes.
So we're practicing with that as well. So it's the whole remit, the whole food issue, everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
once you have started on this path, there's almost no turning back. You will get there.
But yeah, again, being in Spain, like it's a little bit trickier. I'm the only one, you know. I love your idea of getting the advice, and I just I wish it was there available for me. So
Oh, I
yeah,
have
I'll
email.
rely on you.
You can always email me. I can, if you have new pictures, I can put up a private webinar with you, and we can look at your pictures. Please do not stop asking for help.
Cool.
It's not worth it, you know. Flying solo, especially when you have limited experience, is not the way to go, because it's not, it is primarily the horse that suffers, but in the long run you suffer too, because you're going to say, had I asked for help, this all would not have happened. And you have to know where to ask for help. That's not so easy either, you know, because it often happens that you are asking for help and you think you're getting good help. And this is just something you go through life with. I went through this with dental treatments on my horses. I didn't even know that you had to do horses' teeth when I came from Germany. Then I learned that there were such things out like dentists, and they could make big differences in how compliant horses would be. And I got the first dentist, and he came in the morning, and he did all 14 horses that I had within 3 hours. He had them all done, and he charged $35 a piece, and I thought, that's the cat's meow. And then I learned from the next dentist that, she could do this so much better. She would use power tools, and she would sedate the horse. And she showed me, she did a lot of explaining. She had a skull, and she showed me what she was doing exactly, and that sounded all very logic. And I used her for quite a while. And then a friend of mine said, you know, I have this new dentist, he does this totally different, you should come and see him. And so I went and saw him, and boy, he did things totally different. And he explained to us what power tools do to the horse's teeth, and how this is wrong to make the chewing surfaces smooth. And he was kneeling in front of the horse, and he had different hand tools that he used, and he gave the horse every few minutes a break so not to overload the TMJ. And he charged about 10 times as much as the first guy. But you know what? He's worth it. And so that was a learning curve that went on over several years. And every time I met somebody new, I thought, this is the one. And this last dentist that I had was then replaced by my friend Jerry, who had taken his course, and it was the student that became better than the teacher. And Jerry Schmidt does a wonderful job. So all I'm saying here is there is a learning curve in everything, and we need to do every day the best we possibly can. So keep on plucking away at it, Denise. It will come
I
together.
will do. Don't you worry. Thank you.
Okay. And Barbara.
Yes, I have a question on, euthanasia. Out here, it's, either shoot him in the head or, give him a shot with a needle.
Mm-hmm.
Or send him to the slaughterhouse, or to the ring, the auction ring.
Yeah.
And I'm just torn between which is better, shooting or a needle.
That depends who shoots, and that depends who uses the needle.
Oh, yeah.
If you have somebody who is good with the gun, or with a stun gun, then the gun may be the better one. If you have somebody who's good with the needle, what my veterinarian does is he gives them a strong sedative first and a muscle relaxer, and they go down very smoothly.
And do you have other horses around them when you do this?
If it is only one horse, yes. In general, yes. In general, I leave the herd there. They can they stand a little bit in a distance, but they are watching. The last time I didn't, because we had a second horse come in that was somebody else's horse. It didn't belong to the herd, so we took the herd away. But in general, yes. And the other thing we do is when it's over, we leave the horse laying there and we walk away, and we allow the horses to check this out, say goodbye, whatever you name this. Yeah. The other question about shooting or euthanasia is, what do you do with the carcass later?
Right.
There is a thought process, and I just want to share this with you, that the animal would serve a greater purpose if somebody else could be nourished. And if this is a clean animal, that means he has no drugs in him. After you euthanize him with drugs, you can't feed him anymore. And there is, if you have somebody who could use the meat, that's just a thought. Then the bullet is the choice. But it has to be for sure that the horse goes down in one sweep.
Right.
And
Well, we're having this big issue, in this country right now about slaughterhouses and opening them back up.
That's not an option.
Yeah.
The slaughterhouse is not an option, not because of the slaughter of not slaughtering horses, and I personally am not getting into the discussion about horses shouldn't be eaten and this is un-American and all that.
Yeah.
That's not my point. My point is the transport from the holding facility to the slaughterhouse is inhumane.
Yeah, I agree.
The slaughter process itself is inhumane.
Yeah.
People that work at the slaughterhouse are not above animals.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is and if you if anybody doesn't believe me, earthlinks.com is a website that offers a full feature 1+ hour film. Watch it, and then report back.
Yeah.
I have seen it. I have since given up eating meat. After
Yes, you will change your ideas about it.
yeah,
I,
that's why not slaughtering. If, as I said, if an animal can be slaughtered in his surroundings, in the surroundings where he is used to live, in his without the stress that comes with being separated from his companions, lengthy transports without water and food and not knowing where this is going. I once received a horse here, this was long before I became a hoof care professional. Somebody offered me this horse for $10,000 to buy, and I said I would take him any time, but I wouldn't pay a penny. So a year later he came up for free. And he didn't know when he was sitting in a pasture and she was tired of paying board for a horse that she couldn't ride. Okay? So if you don't want to pay for an animal because it's older or not rideable or whatever, then you shouldn't get that animal in the first place. There's a certain responsibility. We don't give our dogs away when they get old.
right.
At least we don't. Some people do. And so I got this horse, and I was at the time working with an animal communicator, and she said, he's fine, he's just horrified because he thinks he's going to slaughter.
Mm.
He had no idea when they loaded him on the truck. He said, nobody tells me anything.
Huh.
And when I unloaded him, I had to unload him. He came on a humongous truck. I had to unload him rather far away from the house and had to walk him to our property. And he was so reluctant, he didn't want to come with me. And I thought, boy, you don't even lead well, Do I have to carry you there? And then he couldn't believe it where he had come. He said, they feed you 3 times a day. And they base you and you don't go to a show. And he just flourished in no time. But horses really have a hard time when they don't know where they're going. They're frightened. And the next step on this is when you yourself eat meat of animals that are frightened and terrified, this will come back to you.
Yeah, the adrenaline
Yeah.
and the whole.
Yeah. So, slaughterhouse is out of the question for our horses.
Have you watched the movie The Temple Grandin?
Yes,
Movie?
yes.
Excellent one for everybody to see too.
It's another one, yes. and another one is Home. Just like our house, Home.
Home?
Yeah, it's a DVD that you can buy at Amazon. It's about how we are exploiting the globe.
Mm, okay.
Very good, and has a good message in the end. So next one, and so it goes on and on. I promise. Well, actually, you know, the themes of the last 3 lectures aren't that. There's nothing I can do to say in the end. Oh, now I show you some really good horses. This is why I tried to show you the motley crew here at the end. This is the Mini in the walker. And if he doesn't go every day in the walker, he's going to be so fat that you can roll him. This is the quarter horse that came to me very founded. And this is the little Welsh, who also is very fat and therefore has to walk every day. They are not walking, they are trotting for an hour. 1 full hour. Every 5 minutes reversing. And so they're very fit horses. But that's better than to be very fat horses. So, thank you everybody for hanging in there today. I appreciate it, and I'll see you next week, and I promise you I'm working hard on the next. I have 1 lecture already in my head, and I'm working on making the arrangements that we can meet again beginning of January and talk at least for 1.5 hours about training horses. So, and maybe something else will come out of that. We'll see. Okay? Have a great day. Thank you for coming, and I see you next week. Bye-bye.